not your time as a journalist.
Thank you very much, Peter, for that introduction. And now, before I start, I'd just like to get an idea of who we've got in the room here. So if any of you are involved in on-farm research, would you like to stand up, please? Would you like to stand up? Anyone involved in on? Oh, look at this. This is brilliant. Fantastic. And then if there's anyone here who is involved in research that is related to farming, would you like to stand up? Fantastic. So that's brilliant. And if there's anyone who's just a little bit curious about on-farm research, would you like to stand up? Brilliant. That's fantastic. We have a room full of on-farm innovators. Give yourselves a round of applause. You should all join BOFIN. Anyway, so what is BOFIN? So we started about 5 years ago. As Peter said, my background is that I'm an arable technical journalist as well as a farmer in Oxfordshire as well. I've realised when I was going around all these farms that there are a lot of farms doing fantastic work, pioneering new products, new practices and so on, but not necessarily doing it in a particularly scientific way and not having much support or resource to enable that work. So that's what we set out to do. So we represent farmers who carry out on-farm trials, and we've got a particular emphasis on pre-commercial tech. That's where our farmers want to be involved. They want to take those new, exciting products and services that are coming onto the market and try them first, see how they work on their own farms in their own systems. So we've built up quite a bit of membership. So 3,500, most of those are actually citizen scientists who are involved, and they've joined BOFIN on the back of mainly our slug project. But we've got more than 800 farmers now who are involved with us and our members. And I'll talk a bit more about what we're doing in a minute. So what is farmer-led research? As I say, it's for the farmer with a curious mind. So a spray miss is never a mistake. It's an opportunity. It's a learning opportunity. And a really important part of that, which is why I'm really interested in talking to you lot, is about the role of science. We want to get a more scientific element. It's not just about doing an on-farm trial and saying, yeah, well, that looks a bit better, so I'll go for that over the whole farm next year. We want to get some proper scientific results. And we believe that on-farm research does have, you can do it so that it gives you a level of scientific replication and so on, that gives you the sorts of evidence that you need as scientists to say, yes, that is a statistically different way of doing things. We can deliver that with on-farm trials, just as you can with small plot trials, and I can give you the evidence. We want to push the boundaries of the fourth agricultural revolution. Farmers should be leading that revolution. It's our opportunity. We can do it. And so that's where we want to be. And we have a culture of sharing as well. I always say to our farmers, your knowledge is very, very valuable, but it's only valuable if you share it. So that's what we're about. And there should be payment. And this is a really important part of what we do. So these pioneers that we're supporting, they are doing a fantastic job. The sort of work that you heard about from Patrick earlier, and what Patrick and Brian are doing, it is exemplary. And they should be paid for what they're doing. It is a public good, and there should be public money paid for that. So we fight very hard on behalf of our farmers for that. So we've got, you'll be aware of the Farming Innovation Programme. We're very involved in that. We've got, thank you very much to DEFRA, by the way, for the wonderful funding that you give us. We've got 4 projects. I'm not going to go into too much detail about these, but we've got Slimers, which is our slugs project, and this is about precision application of pellets mainly, but also bringing new technologies in. Then Truth, which is to do with roots and soil health and understanding more about what's going on beneath our soils. Really interesting in what Jenny was talking about earlier there, for example. We're looking to get much more sort of detail, much more knowledge about what's going on under there. And then our beans project, we've got Bryony here, who's one of, Bryony, just put up your hand if you're still here. Yep, there we are. Brian is one of our pulse pioneers involved in our project, doing some fantastic work, looking at trying to grow peas and beans better. And then there's Probity, which is a platform to rate organisms bred for improved traits and yield. And that's what I really want to talk about. But we haven't just got 4 projects. We've got a 5th project that's about to start in the new year. Now, I'm probably going to get my knuckles wrapped for this because we're not really supposed to talk about it, but I'm so excited about this project. I've got to tell you about it. So this is about light leaf spot. We're bringing the first precision-bred light leaf spot onto commercial farms anywhere across Europe within this project. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about it later. The total value of these projects, this is not a small amount of money. And again, I say thank you very much to DEFRA. So just over 14 million of this, and there's a considerable amount of that that goes to farmers as well. So Probity, and this is what I really want to talk about today, which is precision-bred crops. So it's a 3-year program, 2.2 million pound project, and it's about this. And we've already heard about this wheat yield plateau. We're going nowhere with wheat yields. That's where we should be, the green line. There's a massive gap. And we're not going to get there with current technology. So precision-bred crops can do that, and we can really shorten the time. It takes about something like 15 years at least to get a new variety conventionally onto the market. We can shorten that timeline considerably with precision-bred crops, but there are problems, and we all know what those problems are. It's to do with government regulation, to do with public perception, and so on, and that breeds uncertainty. So, to consumers, to farmers as well, and that filters back to plant breeders. Why on earth would they, put all that investment in when they don't know whether there's ever going to be a market return? So we want to bring, the idea of Probity is to bring that much closer so that you get the plants, as soon as you get the trait introduced, you multiply it up, turn it into a product, put it in consumers' hands, get some proper feedback about how the market feels about it, and that just breeds confidence through the supply chain. So how are we doing that? Well, we're taking a kilogram of seed and we're multiplying it up to 100 tons, is the idea, to run it through a batch. And we're working with some iconic British brands to do that. And so we're going to get some proper evidence of what the market uptake for these precision-bred crops are. So and we're doing it with 3 crops as well. So if I just talk about the 3 individual varieties that we've got. First of all, you may know Nigel Holford and his acrylamide, low acrylamide wheat that he's been developing. And this was the one that really sort of started the project off in the first place. And so the way we're doing it is over the course of the project. We've taken the kilogram of wheat, we've multiplied it up, and then next year we're going to be putting it out onto farm with trialists and multiplying it up to a batch that can be processed into wafers and also into breakfast cereal so that we can really get an idea of how these perform. And the opportunity there with lower acrylamide wheat, this is some wheat produces asparagine, which when you bake it or you toast it, turns into acrylamide, which is a known carcinogen. So food manufacturers can reduce that, but by so doing, they're putting additives in or they're processing it in a way. And as we know, that ultra-processed food and additives gives the food manufacturers a bad name. So they can very much more improve what they're doing, improve the health and the taste of the food if they're not given that restriction of acrylamide. And indeed, the initial results of what we've got back from the batch testing shows that we really can deliver considerably lower levels of acrylamide with this. So it's a huge opportunity for food manufacturers. But we can prove that on a much bigger scale once we've multiplied it up on farm. And we've also involved the farmers in that as well. Briefly, we're also looking at a barley that's got higher lipid value. And again, this is work that's going on here at Rothamsted. So the precision-bred barley. Now, why would you turn barley into forage? Well, the work that's been done here has really, it's a great edit actually that puts higher lipid value into the leaves and stem. Now, you wouldn't necessarily want to turn that into forage, but what we're also doing within the project is bringing the same edit into ryegrass. So the opportunities not only to improve forage value, but to lower methane emissions is huge. Well, we'll prove that hopefully within the project. And then thirdly is a wheat at John Innes Centre that's been grown by Cristobal Wowie and his team. And this comes from Triticum polonicum. There's a gene that limits grain size, and what they managed to do is edit that from Triticum polonicum. Sorry, the gene that limits grain size isn't in Triticum polonicum, so they managed to make an edit in Fielder we should have bigger, bolder grain. Does bigger, bolder grain mean higher yield? Well, we don't know yet. We haven't done the field trials, but that's what we're looking to do within the project. And that's the one that's really exciting for me, because the opportunity to completely rewrite the agronomy rules is really exciting on that one. And anyway, I must rattle on. But so farmers are very much involved in this, not only as Probity pioneers, actually growing the crops, but also in relaying it as well. And that's one of the really important things about this project. Farmers should be involved in these crops. The thing is, the conversations about precision-bred crops and how they're going to be introduced and what sort of restrictions they're going to be and so on and so forth, those conversations are going on, and farmers need to be involved in it. At the moment, farmers don't feel that they're involved in precision-bred crops because it's not there on their farm. And so actually getting them involved in the conversation so that we can actually extract that information is really an uphill struggle, I can tell you. But it's really, really important they're involved. So we're trying as much as we can to get farmers involved and putting them in front of farming audiences, getting the discussion going. We're also doing things like the Probity Pledge campaign to get farmers to come along, talk about, find out about precision-bred crops and then bring their concerns to us. And it's a very important part of the project that we're delivering. And we're doing it through what we're calling the Sequence Circle, which is a community that we're building around the project to gather views, to get the discussion going, to get the findings from the project out into the innovation community. And it's a very important part of what we do across all of our projects. The Sequence Circle is two elements to the Sequence Circle. First of all, it's a forum. We're hosting that on the Farming Forum. And that's where we can get the discussion going and also have a look at that discussion, see, gauge the sentiment of that discussion as well. It's also a resource area. As I say, we're asking people to come and find out about precision-bred crops. So we've done things like this leaflet. I've got some copies of this if you want it, by the way, just to explain to people what precision-bred crops are about. And we're producing all sorts of these. There's also articles and things like that that we're doing to get the knowledge out there about precision-bred crops. So just want to talk about the challenges within precision-bred crops. The first one being stakeholder acceptance. When I say stakeholders, that's mainly farmers, but also the rest of the supply chain and also consumers as well. So that's an important part of the project that we're delivering, and that's University of Nottingham very much involved in this. And so we've got their social science department doing some work looking at the various audiences and doing some proper science to analyze the views there. The main audience, as I say, that we want to look at are farmers. And I wonder, does anyone know just how much research has gone on, proper research, into analyzing how farmers feel about precision-bred crops? Does anyone have an idea about how much research has gone on? Well, there's actually zero research, which is, I think, pretty shocking. We've also looked at the grey literature, which, as I understand it, is not proper peer-reviewed research. There have been two studies that have been done. Both have been done by BOFIN, I might say. But no one else has done any research into this, which is pretty shocking, I think. So we want to do some proper analysis of that. Just to give you some results of the research that we did a survey back in 2023, shortly after the legislation went through. And our farmers, so just bear in mind, by the way, these are our farmers who are, the pioneers. They're more likely to take up new technologies. So this isn't indicative of all farmers. But we asked them, would you be interested in growing GMOs? And not particularly is the answer. when it comes to PBOs, as long as they're commercialized, then yes, resoundingly, really want to grow them. What are their concerns? What are the opportunities? Well, as far as the opportunities are concerned, it's about science and common sense. They see this as a natural progression, a natural part of farming, and there's a lot of potential opportunity. But what's needed is the research to do it properly, to understand this technology properly. Was the feedback that we got. On the concerns, it's not going to surprise you that legislative concerns, one of the main things, and the marketability of it. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this, but you'll understand what the sort of concerns they are. That's obviously a big concern for farmers. One of the interesting things is that some of our farmers, they're farm managers or they're tenants, and they need to convince their landlords or their farm owners that this is a good idea. So especially if they're going to be researching something that's a bit new, they need to be sure that that the farm owner or that their boss is going to be happy with what they're doing. That's a big concern among them. And also what sort of restrictions there might be on farmers. And this was one thing that we looked at, coexistent measures. They're quite interesting how the attitude here has changed. And so our farmers were saying that it should be the responsibility of the PBO grower, but a voluntary responsibility to inform their neighbours, especially if it's right on the edge of their land, especially if they're up against organic crops or whatever, to say, by the way, I'm growing some precision-bred crops on the edge here, just to let you know. And are you growing a similar crop right next door? That's the sort of level that we believe is necessary. Interestingly enough, when we surveyed them 4 years prior to this, it was they felt that it should be the responsibility on the organic grower to find out about it. And if the organic grower had an interest in, being organic and not having precision-bred crops on their farm, then they should take the steps to do it. That's now changed, which I think is probably a good move. It should always be. I was quite surprised at this. I thought that there'd be more, that it should be farmer-led, but no, they feel that it should be science-led, that the new traits should be science-led. And one of the interesting aspects of this was we asked them what sort of traits should be prioritized. I suppose it's not going to be a huge surprise here that the ones that are closer to farm, nitrogen use efficiency and so on, pest and disease resistance, they're the ones that should get the priority, they feel. Whereas something like food safety, human nutritional needs, that might need a little bit more government support or oomph behind it in order for those traits to come through. So other challenges. Legislation, obviously a massive challenge here. Just to refine, we've now got the new regulations that have come into place. It's a two-stage process. The first one's led by ACRE. And the interesting thing here is that the window's now open. We've already submitted our crops into the window to get approval. It's a 90-day process, but if they come back with queries, they stop the clock. And so it can go on for longer than 90 days. Then once it's past that stage, it goes to the Food Standards Agency, who decide whether it's a novel crop and whether it should be legislated as such. And it's a triage process, basically. The applicant, you put it in either tier 1 or tier 2. And if you think that it's not a novel food, then you put it into tier 1, and it should be a fairly light touch. If there's more work, more evidence that's needed that this is going to be a safe food, it goes through tier 2. The thing about this process is it's entirely open-ended. We don't know how long it's going to take things through. And there could be feeding trials and things like that that are required to do. So it could be years rather than just a few days or a few months. But we don't know, that window isn't yet open. So we don't really know what that looks like at the moment. And there is some concern within the industry that that's going to be quite a laborious process. But we'll see. The other element of this is actually getting transgene-free material. And this is one thing we learned early on within the project. So just to go through the technology that we're talking about here, you're probably aware of the CRISPR mechanism that's they call it like a sort of search mechanism, and then a pair of scissors to make the snip. And it's the transgene that you introduce that's the part of that search mechanism that finds the right location in the plant to make that specific snip. And then the plant repairs itself, and when it repairs itself, that's when the new trait appears. But that transgene then has to be crossed out, because that's basically a GM element that has to be crossed out. And what you're looking for, simple genetics here shows you that from the next generation, you'll have one that's both got the edit in it, and it hasn't got the transgene, and that's what you're looking for. Now, the simple PCR analysis can tell whether you've got the transgene in there. What we didn't realize is that if there's a small fragment of that DNA, it doesn't get picked up by the PCR analysis. So you have to do a full DNA analysis to actually find out whether it's transgene free. And that caught us out at the start of the project. It's been a bit of a problem. I'm sure you guys know more about these sorts of things than I do, by the way. So forgive me if I'm talking in rather basic terms about it. But basically, it means that we haven't got as much material as we thought we'd have by now, PB material. So what we've done is we've taken some older technology, tilling, which I hope most of you know about, which is an older form of editing, if you like. And we've got a trait that we've multiplied up that we're putting through our Probity pioneers, and we've now got it out onto farm. This is an EGT, is the trait here, enhanced gravitropism. So this is a gene that makes roots sort of fan out, and you knock it out, and it makes the roots go much deeper, or steeper, should I say. If they go steeper, they should go deeper. Well, we don't yet know, but that's why we're doing the field trials. So we could have drought-resistant wheat here. And so we had early trials with Dyson last year, and also at John Innes Centre. I have to say, they didn't perform particularly well. So when we put them out onto our farms, we got some fantastic farmers involved in this, by the way. And when I sent out the seed and so on, I said, we hope this is what's going to happen, but just to let you know, we're really not sure whether this is a great technology. But then on the other hand, if it doesn't perform well, then we can say, oh, well, that was the old technology, but here's the nice new precision-bred crops. Anyway, that trial is ongoing. Literally, the seed has just got in the ground. We'll see where it goes. Just to talk a little bit more about the roles within the project. It's not just about doing the science and delivering the actual trial results. It's also about doing a serious part of the role is as a project ambassador, and all of our farmers. So they're all paid for what they do, and an important part of that is to do the dissemination and to drive the discussion as well. And so an important part of their contract is they have to deliver precision project ambassador points. So it's turning up to events like this, or talking, having the opportunity to talk about it, go onto our forum. They get paid, or they get points for engaging people in discussions about it, and they have to accrue a certain number of points over the year. And then we resource them through the trial as well, whether it be trial plans, helping them with trial plans. We have an app that we've developed to help them log everything so that they get the data back, a handbook, and then we're developing this method, shovelomics, for example, to look at the roots within this project. So I just wanted to say that's what this is, or these are the opportunities that we've got here. This is the system of bringing crops to market. This is where Probity sits. There are all these traits that we can develop for the market, some of which it's a no-brainer. They'll find market acceptance, and so the market will take them on. They'll take them to market, and they'll obviously bring all the benefits that they want. But there are some traits, like those ones I've got up there, that need a little bit more thought and a little bit more research. Those are the ones that we can really help with Probity and with our new platform as well, and bring them to market. So I think that's just about the opportunity for export here. is huge. We can, so some of these traits, like what they're developing in Asia and in America, for example, we can bring them into our platform. We can show that they work. We can then introduce them onto the European market. That's the opportunity here. It's such an opportunity. If you don't come away with anything from my talk, just think about that. Anyway, that's it. Sorry, I've gone over time.